Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Doing a bit of a different one today. I haven't done a vlog in a while. I started an Instagram to try to help me keep track of things that I'm doing that I can go through and talk about, and I think that started off well, but this last week I feel like I've fallen in a bit of a rut, and so I feel like I haven't been putting that much on there lately. I've been there before, and I've gotten myself out of it before. Basically just got to get out of my head. There's big things like taking a trip, volunteering somewhere, going out with friends can be good for that. Sometimes that's not an option though. Lack of money or energy and motivation. But for me, waiting for motivation before I do anything can be long and drawn out. It's like waiting for happiness before I start doing things that make me happy. It can happen on its own for sure, but when I don't feel like waiting for a feeling to pass, then I'm pretty sure it's a negative thinking spiral that's causing it. I gotta force myself to make changes. So today I'm going to be reading some healthy, wise words that I've found comforting, encouraging, and help to put things into perspective. I think I just needed to focus myself on this right now, and I hope you get something out of it too, even if it's just falling asleep, because that's what it's really about, isn't it? So this first thing is from the School of Life YouTube channel, one of their blog posts just recently actually. It's called Living Long Term with Mental Illness. We would of course want to get rid of this thing forever, and heaven knows we will have tried. We'll have gone on courses, read books, hired psychiatrists and psychotherapists, taken medicines. And through this we would have veered between despair and hope that we might eventually be able to achieve a victory over our monsters. But the more time passes, the more we have to take on board a bleaker, unavoidable reality. This thing is here for the long term. In the one life we'll ever have, this is us. We'll never be rid of the bugs. We have a chronic condition, not an illness. How can we survive this ostensibly, extremely dispiriting realization? A range of thoughts come to mind. First and foremost, we need a certain mindset, one combining intense doses of pessimism with bleak humor and the most tender compassion. We never asked for this. We didn't do anything especially wrong. It's not a sign of a sinful nature. We can speculate at length about where it comes from. An emotional inheritance, a biological condition, the outcome of certain choices we've made. It will be a distinctive mixture of all these, and in the grander scheme, it may not really matter. The task is ultimately just to accept that this is the fight of our lives. Celebrate small wins. Against a bleak picture, we need to redraw our horizons and expectations. We're never going to solve the whole problem. Therefore, we need to be able to particularly celebrate when things aren't especially awful, and we have a good day or two. We know by now that the problems are always going to return. which is why we have no option but to draw maximal satisfaction when every now and then we go through a steady and coherent passage. We need to become the sort of people who can say, without irony or bitterness, Wednesday went well, and that's a serious accomplishment. Other people climb mountains for a challenge or go racing around a motor track at 200 miles per hour. Our extreme sport is the challenge of staying alive. The right people around us. We don't want to be judgmental, but a lot of people, perhaps most people, are really not going to be very helpful to us. They may have the sweetest dispositions and interesting lives, but in essence they will never be able to understand us. To put it more accurately, their circumstances mean they will never feel a need to understand our minds, and good for them. We would be the same if we were any luckier, and their experiences will always feel remote and alien as a result. We need to seek out people who either know the condition from the inside, or, because of some fortuitous bend in their minds, feel somehow instinctively close to it anyway. We need people who can let us despair, but also know how to encourage us to laugh. People who won't accuse us of malingering or making a meal out of nothing. Who won't look wide-eyed and full of judgment as we detail what we've been up to, and some of the wildest thoughts that course through us in the early hours. We need more than most a lot of love, and yet, of course, we'll be unusually inept at finding it, as damaged people are. Care. We need to remain at all times vigilant, knowing how susceptible we are. So we need to be always on our guard as to the likelihood of a relapse. We should formulate plans, but hold on to them very lightly. We should realize the link between busyness and mania, and take extreme measures to live soberly. We should acknowledge and fully honor the differences between ourselves and other more robust people. So I have some personal stuff going on at the moment that could be stirring emotions up in me, or it could just be recurring gloominess that I feel sometimes. Either way, I wanted to try to start my morning a bit different by going to the beach. I haven't been for a few weeks because it's winter and I've been preoccupied, but I ended up having a really slow start. I didn't know if I was going to make it. It was a nice day, but it was really windy, so I kept going back and forth about it. And then at about 11 a.m. I finally got ready. Clothing choice is not very beachy looking. I even brought this heavy jacket just in case. It was really beautiful sitting in the sun, really clear blue skies. I read for a bit. I only stayed for about half an hour until the wind and the sand got too much. But I ended up crying on the way home, so it wasn't super successful. I found this website called Buddha Dharma and one section here called Buddhist teachings. teachings on desire. I think it's a book and this is just one chapter. Maybe an online book, I'm not sure. Human beings are not like the leaves and branches of trees, which sway in the breeze, affected solely by external conditions. Humans act prompted by internal conditions. When the physical body is healthy and ready for activity, the mind begins to be aware of what lies in front and behind, above and below, nearby and far away, along with the surrounding location of various objects. In short, you have an understanding of the possible avenues for movement and activity. With this initial understanding, you must then decide which direction to move and how to act. The mental factor that controls or dictates this decision-making process is intention. Here, in this process, intention is affected by a motivation called desire. When you desire to go somewhere, obtain something, or perform an action, intention chooses to fulfill this desire. What is desire? On a basic level, desire stems from likes and dislikes. Whatever agrees with your eyes, ears, tongue, mind, etc., you wish to obtain and consume. Whatever is disagreeable to the senses, you wish to escape from or get rid of. Intention makes decisions according to these likes and dislikes. This form of desire, based on preferences and aversions, is referred to as craving. In sum, there are various factors involved in this activity. Knowledge helps to reveal and discern the various objects in one's surrounding environment. Craving wishes to obtain or get rid of particular objects. And intention chooses to act according to these desires. What I take from this is like when you're healthy, it's normal for your mind to start wandering, to ask, now what? What can I do? Where can I go? If you're sick or really stressed out, all your energy is focused on that. You're in pain, bedridden, got doctor's appointments, or researching treatments, or in need of some urgent care. You won't have the luxury of thinking how else you want to spend the day. So for me, when I'm in that ready for activity state, I'm healthy, work's paying the bills, I've got a roof over my head, and I guess my mind starts wandering. And then different things can go wrong, I guess, in this desire stage for me. I realize I don't know what I want to do, or I have an idea of what I want to do, but I think I can't do it. And like a lot of people, I spend a lot of time online. We're exposed to so much more than is like natural. And I feel this added pressure because I see everyone else living their life to the fullest. And I can get so in my head about these things that my mind freezes. And then it's like, now I'm not in that healthy, ready for activity state of mind anymore. Now I'm anxious and fearful and overwhelmed. And that can lead to low moods or depression sometimes. And without intention, there's no direction, so then I feel aimless and lost, hopeless. To feel anxious and hopeless at the same time is a bad combination. So I think setting a few small goals for the day that are easily achievable, meaning they don't require too much planning or energy, they're not overwhelming, and recognizing when they've been achieved, but also they're not super important, so nothing's going to fall apart if they don't get done. It has nothing to do with future life goals or big ideas. This isn't the time to be focused on any of that. Anyway, it continues. Yet there is another element to this process. Living beings possess deeper, more fundamental needs and desires when it comes to action or non-action. They wish to exist, to survive, to be safe, to be healthy and happy, and to live in an optimal state. They wish to exist in a state of fulfillment. Here you may ask whether such fulfillment is found by merely relying on a knowledge of your surrounding sense objects, a craving to either consume or evade such objects, and an intention which propels actions in accord with the whispered suggestions by this very craving. Wisdom itself will answer that this is not enough. If you encounter some food that has been made to look appetizing by adding various chemical colorants, craving will want to consume it. But if you indulge this craving, it's as if you drop poison into your food and you will suffer from obesity or some other ailment. This knowledge is insufficient and untrustworthy, i.e., of ignorance. When wisdom has been developed as true understanding, besides being aware of your surroundings, you also know how to bring about goodness, proficiency, and happiness. You know what's beneficial and what's harmful, what to promote and what to avoid. You have an understanding of causes and effects, knowing that specific actions will have both short-term and long-term consequences. Wisdom investigates and discerns the interrelationship between things. It knows, for instance, that happiness is based on good health. It recognizes that in order to maintain good health, you should eat certain foods, exercise, set up a certain environment, maintain certain daily routines, cultivate the mind, allocate your time well, etc. These things recommended by wisdom are of no interest to craving, which only seeks personal gratification, delight, ostentation, and distinction. And anything that is irritating or offensive, it wishes to escape from or eliminate. It may appear that without the enticements by craving, there is no alternative motivating force prompting intention and instigating actions suggested by your understanding of surrounding circumstances. The functioning of life is impeded. Yet there exists an alternative motivating force, wholesome desire or wholesome enthusiasm. Here, the direction of your life changes course. You begin to develop the quality of your life. Wisdom discerns what is harmful and what is beneficial in your surroundings, and recognizes the path to true fulfillment. Wholesome desire aspires to this fulfillment and wishes to bring it about. An intention initiates the effort to move in this positive direction. When people develop themselves in this way, the cycle of ignorance, craving, intention is loosened or weakened. It's replaced by the sequence of wisdom, wholesome desire, intention, or wisdom, wholesome desire, wholesome action. When true wisdom comes to the fore, counterfeit wisdom, i.e. ignorance, retreats. Those things recommended by wisdom for promoting health and well-being are likely to be disagreeable in regard to craving. Craving likes to be indulged by ignorance. In the cycle of ignorance and craving, as soon as a feeling of pleasure or displeasure arises, along with the desire to obtain or consume, a sense of self appears to act as the delegate or representative. A consumer or owner is born. This then creates the duality between such a consumer or owner and those objects desired and consumed. Following on from this is the arising of the sense of you, of him, them, etc., who threaten, obstruct, compete, etc. On a deeper level, you wish for this so-called self to be stable so that you can continue to consume things. And you wish for it to be powerful so that you are ensured of obtaining and consuming things to the greatest degree without any interference. At the same time, if you encounter unpleasant, undesirable things, you wish to escape from or eliminate them. And if you find the situation unendurable, you may react by desiring some form of self-annihilation. Wholesome desire includes the wish for self-fulfillment and self-integrity. For example, you wish for your body to exist in a state of good health. In this case, you wish for the various organs of the body to exist in their own natural state of well-being. In many circumstances, however, instead of initiating an action, people pause or stop short. In this case, the hesitation, passiveness, or inaction is a form of action, and it may be a potent form of action at that. There are many reasons why craving may initiate non-action. For example, one may refrain from acting because by acting you would be deprived of some pleasure that you're currently experiencing, or because you would encounter some kind of trouble or adversity. Even in the case that acting in a particular way would be truly beneficial for your life, craving may urge you to refrain from acting out of fear of hardship or deprivation. When people develop wisdom and generate wholesome desire as a motivating force, they perform actions they recognize as appropriate and valuable, even though by acting they will face discomfort and be resisting the urge by craving to refrain from acting. Conversely, craving may prompt acting in order to obtain some pleasure, but wisdom, by discerning that such action will damage your quality of life, will urge you to refrain. When you get to the heart of the matter, you recognize that craving, in fact, is not a genuine motivation for action, because the act itself is not the priority for craving. Wholesome desire, on the other hand, wishes for true completion and fulfillment of all things with which you engage. For example, Sarah is endowed with wholesome enthusiasm. She sees the inside of a house and wants it to be clean. She wishes for this dwelling to exist in a state of completeness. If it's dirty, she wishes for it to be clean and picks up a broom to sweep the floor. She derives joy and contentment both from sweeping, which is the cause for the desired result, and from witnessing a clean space, which is the direct result from sweeping. Harry has no interest or delight in cleanliness, but he does have a sweet tooth. His mum suggests that he helps with the chores, but he doesn't respond. So she says, "If you sweep the house, I will buy you some sweets." When he hears this, Harry picks up a broom and sweeps. In fact, Harry does not desire cleanliness. He only sweeps because this action is a means by which he can get some candy. When craving leads to an avoidance of action, it may manifest in the form of laziness, whereby you cling to pleasurable sensations. Alternatively, it may manifest in the form of fear, say by being afraid of encountering some form of discomfort while performing an action, or being anxious of losing self-importance. I feel like so much of this relates to what I was saying before about how I get overwhelmed and frozen. Even just this week, I was having so much difficulty making a video, and it was really getting me down. I have these ideas and I feel like I can't do any of them. Can I keep reading articles? Will YouTube just delete my account? Demonetize it? Like, I don't hate my day job, but it's not very creative or challenging. There's no real progression to be made, and I've been doing it for about 8 years now, so I think I'm just a bit bored of it. And so having this channel fills a creative void, and it feels like the possibilities are endless. It's exciting It's something to look forward to. So just the idea of losing that is really crushing. And I couldn't get that out of my head. And I don't even really know where it all came from. There was a loss in my family recently, so I guess it is a confusing time. But I was on a roll, and then all of a sudden I just hit a wall. And then I'm hard on myself, like I always do this. I get momentum going, and then I just stop for whatever reason. And then I beat myself up for stopping. And I think how other people would handle it better. They wouldn't wallow in it, they just look for solutions and then fix it. Anyway, this chapter is really long. I only read a fraction of it here. I did skim through other parts of it. It goes really deep into Buddhism, deeper than I'm willing to go right now. But it does help to bring me back to reality. It's a good reminder of what's important. For me, it's about finding a balance between that really intense way of life, spirituality, and living a normal life amongst your peers and other people you know. That's why I like Alan Watts, because he knew a lot about Buddhism. He was very insightful, but he was imperfect and someone the average person could relate to. I have this clip here I want to read from him. It's a small part taken from a bigger speech that he did called Buddhism as Dialogue. So in the same way, we tend to know that we are all separate, poor little me, and that we're in need of salvation or something. And we know this is so. And so somebody says, well, you're not really that. You know that that feeling of separateness is an illusion. Well, that's all very nice in theory, but I don't feel it. So what will you do? What will you do with a person who is convinced that the earth is flat? There's no way of reasoning with him. If it's for some reason important that he discover that the earth is round, you've got to play a game with him. You want to play a trick on him. You tell him, great, the earth is flat. Let's go and look over the edge. Wouldn't that be fun? But if we're going to go look over the edge of the earth, we must be very, very careful that we don't go around in circles, or we'll never get to the edge. So we've got to go along consistently, along a certain line of latitude, westwards, and then we're going to come to the edge of the earth, just so long as we're consistent. In order to convince a flat earthist that the world is round, you've got to make him act consistently on his own proposition and go consistently westward to find the edge of the world. Now at last, when he comes back to the place where he started, he's been convinced that the earth is at least cylindrical, and he may believe you and then take it on faith that if he goes along the line of longitude, the same thing will happen. But you see, what you did was to make him persist in his folly. Now that's the whole method of Zen, to make people become perfect egotists, and so explode the illusion of the separate ego. He goes on to talk more about how Buddhism and Zen masters play with you. When you come to them convinced you have a problem, and you try to desperately convince them that you have a problem, and you need help, they're not going to talk to you like a therapist and try to reason with you. They're going to play with you a bit to help you figure out your own bullshit. And it reminds me of other things I've heard in the past about momentum of emotions and thoughts and how they can build up to the point where you can't even convince yourself that they're not true. And trying to push against it isn't going to help. So if you feed into it a little bit like I'm doing now, not feeding the bad thoughts specifically, but feeding into the idea that I have a problem. So I'm seeking out all this spiritual guidance and advice, and I'm almost frantically looking for a solution that I can't find. But everything I'm reading is reminding me how silly our minds are sometimes. And it's giving me a different perspective. And so through that, I start feeling light again, and that reminds me to not take things so seriously, good and bad. And it also feels more like going with the flow rather than pushing against it. So I'm glad I could make a video about it, because I had two important things I wanted to do this week. One being make a video, and the other to get out of my head. Trying to push down what I was feeling so I could make a video about something else wasn't helpful, and it just wasn't going to happen. And if I'd stayed in that mode of thinking, I wouldn't have made a video, and then I would have beat myself up more about it, and it would have just gotten worse. So I think the whole point is like two things. That your mind is playing tricks on you, but if you can figure that out, you can see how it's also alerting you to something that's wrong, like guidance, kind of. And that's why you're feeling bad, if you know what I mean. Maybe that's only obvious in hindsight. So yeah, thanks for listening, guys. I hope you're having a better week than me, and I will see you next time.